Hello, Jimjamatic here. Welcome to a brand new episode of Robot Wars episode reviews. We're on to Heat H, and honestly, there was no great robots in this heat whatsoever. It's a pretty boring heat. Nothing really happens. Yeah, there's no grand finalists or anything like that, or future famous robots. Nothing like that. No, nothing like that at all. And I'm joined by Sam Elliott, 64.
I get a good heat! I'm so excited!
It took you long enough, didn't it?
Since I started, I'm going to check it later. Someone knows I've done what heats I've done or something. I don't think I've had one heat where I've been like, this is a good heat. This is the one! This is the one I get! I get a good heat! And as you're completely correct, there's no famous robots in this heat at all.
No, nothing. I mean, the Heat winner doesn't go on to anything else later on in the series.
No, definitely not.
It's not like it went to 4 consecutive semi-finals, nothing like that. No. Two grand.
Why don't we talk about this Heat winner?
Oh, the twice grand finalist. Oh yeah, that's
no, 3 times.
Oh, thrice grand finalist. Sorry.
Thrice, exactly.
Thrice. It is, of course, Hypno-Disc. Hypno-Disc. I said Hypno-Disc.
No, I'm just saying Hypno-Spin, and it would beat anything that's in the modern series, obviously.
Obviously, it was the carbide of its day when it debuted.
I think it would. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This Hypno-Disc at the time was groundbreaking. Nowadays, it would break.
Oh, it would. I mean, Hypno-Disc did suffer from a lot of reliability issues, particularly in this series. Matching being the first one, but it's weird to think that this robot was a 600 RPM disc, yet carbide is going up towards 2,500. And
it's amazing how far things have come in about 15 or so years, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at Hypno-Disc in this series and you think, wow, this is something special. But at the time, it was fighting against things made out of road signs.
That's true.
And Hypno-Disc, I mean, there's no greater, for me at least, there's no greater example of like stylishness, and it was so unique at the time. No one else had ever thought, hey, let's take a whacking great blade on the front of a robot and spin it really quickly. No one had thought to do that, and it strikes me as very odd as to why.
I don't know.
You look at Hypno-Disc and you think that's just Robot Wars. Why would you not do that? And you can see why after this robot, a lot of people sort of jumped on the spinning bandwagon.
Yeah, so a lot of them didn't really do very well, like things like Disco Inferno. Was a point.
Disco Inferno were unlucky, but
they were unlucky. But again, reliability is part of it, and also Disc didn't do that much damage really anyway. It wasn't like a Hypno-Disc level. I mean,
that's true.
The best spinners probably were Fluffy, Typhoon 2, S3, and Exterminator in Series 7. Yeah.
Exterminator.
I mean, pre obviously post, like where just take your pick in Series 8 and 9. Like hell,
yeah.
I mean, just look at Heat 4 of the most recent series, and you'll just see spinners galore. But
yeah.
But
let's talk about Hypno-Disc. Okay, so my first exposure to Hypno-Disc was the semi-finals of Series 3.
Mm-hmm.
And because the first episode I ever watched was Heat L, which we'll get to later on, and I saw it against Evil Weevil, and I really liked Evil Weevil because again I saw their heat, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be a really tight fight, and they just kind of bashed it into oblivion, really. But going back to watch this heat, I mean, is there a better spectacle in early Robot? This was like groundbreaking. It just turns up, and then Robogeddon gets sent to absolute ashes. It's unbelievable, and it was for the time it was unprecedented. I don't think anything had been damaged quite like it. Not by a competitor, at least, had it?
That's true. I mean, the most destruction we've had is probably Forklift in the Reserve Rumble. I think that was it, probably. I mean, even then, it was just the shell just got lifted off. It didn't get destroyed or ripped off entirely. So, Hypno-Disc really did the first proper damage in the series, and that wasn't done by a house robot. And even the house robots couldn't do as much damage as these guys. So, I mean, it's a fact that this team. I mean, the whole model for Hypno-Disc was made out of wasn't it his son or was it his nephew's Lego toy?
Yeah, supposedly it was made out of a Lego toy. I don't know how much I believe that, to be honest with you, but I mean. It's if it's true, then what a concept that is, and I think this robot is remembered for a very good reason, because like the fact that the scale of the destruction that Hypno-Disc brought to the arena was something that had not been seen before, and very rarely replicated after Hypno-Disc until the later series of series 6 and 7, where the spinners were actually fairly decent.
Yeah, I mean, Hypno-Disc's biggest problem throughout the entire series is once it started getting to the semi-finals, it started meeting robots that actually could take the hits a lot of the time. So then,
I'd say the only problem I had with Hypno-Disc, this series, I mean, it's the first iteration I can understand. Series 4 and 5, Hypno-Disc was unstoppable, really, wasn't it? It was, they didn't really have any major opposition. They just got unlucky in both series, really. They lost to 2 very good opponents, and then in series 6, I mean, obviously by that point people have moved forward. They've worked out how to build robots. Essentially, a lot of things from series 6, I'm sure people still do to some degree today. And the way that the series evolved around Hypno-Disc, and Hypno-Disc sort of stood still, and made 3 grand finals in a row. You can't knock its performance, but it's a shame that it kind of died a death the way it did. Really, it's a shame, but I mean, I could gush over this robot all day. I mean, it's one of my absolute favourites. I think it's certainly in my top 3 ever.
I mean, it's one of those robots I felt like when it was when it was attacked en masse, it had nothing. Like as soon as you stopped that disc, it was just like, especially in the Annihilator. Remember that? It just got pounced on.
There was two fights where I just thought they just need something to change, and that was in the Losers Melee in Series 6.
Oh, that was a disaster for Hypno-Disc.
and then it was the All Stars in Extreme 2 when they got just ganged up on by Dominator and Spawn again.
I mean, Dominator went through the disc with its axe. I mean, and it's like when Shunt did in Series 4. It's just like some things just think, "Ow, that hurt a lot." And I mean, they got very lucky in like Series 4 and 5. Really, I mean, Series 4 was probably more unlucky because it was straight from the beginning.
I think they could have won both of those series. In fact, I think they could have won Series 3 as well. They were lucky in the grand final, which we'll get to eventually. But I mean, first of all, let's talk about the noise as well. I mean, the noise in this series in particular, you hear it the most. I mean, you hear it a bit in Series 5 as well.
It sounds like it's like World War II bombers when they were like that air siren type noise.
Yeah, the woo.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
It sounds fantastic. I love the noise it makes. It's just such a. It's weird, but it's just a very mechanical, winding noise, and it's great. I adore Hypno-Disc.
I mean, obviously, robots later on like Carbide and Tauron will have the kind of, and Pulsar have the kind of signature the death hum, as they call it nowadays. But Hypno-Disc was the first robot.
This is the very first iteration of that. This is kind of the death wail.
The death siren. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's multiple times in Series 3 when they're interviewing robots, and you see them watching that battle in the background. You can just hear that noise just echoing throughout the entire pit.
Yeah.
And people have to think, oh shit, we got to fight this robot at some point potentially.
I know, I mean, we'll get to that team in a second. But there's a team in this heat where like they were just so devastated after the fight. It's just. And I mean, at this point, again, Robot Wars was still kind of developing, and I don't think people expected to turn up and actually end up going home in pieces. Like at this point, teams are going home, and you'd see some cosmetic damage, maybe a little bit of internal damage, but it would be mostly intact.
Yeah.
At this, and then this robot comes along and just changes everything. It was amazing.
It's true. I guess we've talked a lot about Hypno-Disc.
Yes, I'm sure. I mean, we'll discuss it more, I'm sure, as we go on.
I mean, its battles
it has such a pedigree and such a history. I think it's only fair.
Its battles are definitely where it starts shining, particularly, obviously. But we'll get to the runner-up, and honestly, a very unlucky runner-up. They could have beaten Hypno-Disc potentially.
They would have beaten Hypno-Disc.
If I said they were beating Hypno-Disc until a certain point. It is Berserk 2. The Death Team return. They had the super heavyweight, which is red and weird. Basically, it's sort of a similar version to it. They got the forklift at the back, except it's like a proper. It's not like just a copy and paste like a forklift from a truck. It's like a unique forklift, and the axe. I mean, the axe never did anything. Let's face it; it was just there for
it was
secondary weapons. But Berserk 2 was the first robot to stand up to Hypno-Disc and not get destroyed in any way, which is a feat in its own. I mean, it's like something from like the modern series of Hardox almost. It felt like it just skimmed it.
For the time. I mean, Berserk 2. I mean, there's nothing really much it did wrong except it got caught by the arena spike, which again a lot of teams had in this series. I mean, it was a hazard that everyone knew about, so I don't hold blame anywhere really. It's just the fact that it was unfortunate that it drove over it, and I think had Berserk 2 not got flipped over, do I think they would have won? Probably, yeah.
I mean, they could have flipped Hypno-Disc over pretty easy if they stopped the disc spinning.
But imagine the story. If Hypno-Disc had got out in the heat final, I mean, everyone would be like, "Oh my god, when are they going to come back? When are they going to come back?" I think it made for a better series in the long run that Hypno-Disc went through.
I agree, but I mean, at the same time though, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Berserk 2 was pretty much dominant in this heat, along with Hypno-Disc. They were all like together, like dominating every battle they're in, and then unfortunately one robot had to lose, and it's just the case of Berserk 2 getting very lucky against the arena spike.
Berserk 2 was very underrated. Like this version, I mean, I don't want to talk about the Series 4 version. That thing just
and Twister.
No, let's not discuss these things. All right? I don't want to talk about them yet. This is. I'll have my own independent rants for each of those two robots. Can I do both those heats?
I'm sure I can get you in there.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Anyway, so Berserk 2 in Series 3 was awesome. I love the kind of skull motif it had going on. It looked really awesome. And again, they were very unfortunate to get drew against one of the best robots in the whole series. Really, I think. In most other heats, Berserk 2 probably would have won.
I mean,
but that's the way it is.
To me, it's up there with also with the Big Cheese and King Buxton as robot, and also an Exterminator. Those 4 robots. They're easily semi-finals. Just throw Blade, throw Trident, throw throw Evil Weevil out. I don't care. And
no,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm taking Evil Weevil out of it, and then
no, don't do it.
and in comparison to Exterminator and Berserk 2, really?
All right. We'll save that for another time. But Berserk 2,
it's just it's a solid robot.
I don't know what it was armored in, but for the time it was very good. Clearly, because all the welding was very good.
It might be just really thick, maybe. I don't know if that caused it. I mean, I can't see anything on. If anyone knows
why Berserk 2 was able to withstand Hypno-Disc and no one else did, please let us know. I actually don't know.
Oh, it just says aluminium alloy. So that doesn't really say anything. So it could be something. It could be a special thing. It could be something.
If you know, please tell us.
I'm really curious because it just made a few sparks and that was it. There wasn't even like a dent or a scratch. It just looked identical when it got hit. So
yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, Berserk 2 probably one of the unluckiest heat finalists of the series.
Yes, I'd say they are the unluckiest heat finalists of the series. I think as much as Behemoth were unlucky, but they were being dominated anyway.
I mean, their fight was more even. This one was more one-sided, and then it just ended up being, stopped, unfortunately, too short. But I would say they do well next series, but they don't. This is the best you'll ever see Berserk be, so...
this team... It's a shame, because this team were really cool. Again, I like this team, but they...
I mean, the fact we never see another deaf team, it's a shame, because I think it was really great to see them, come in and have, just... not care about the disability and just do what they want to do anyway, and
it's always
fun watching Philippa try to do the sign language as well.
Yes,
anyways,
her and Julia, they had a good go, didn't they? Which is always fun.
I like that. It shows you why I like those two, to be honest with you. But we'll move on. I'll move on to I'll get them the less interesting one out of the way. I'll go for Alligator.
It's Alligator, I guess.
It's one of those robots I almost have nothing to say about because I just don't.
I mean, I like how sleek it looks. Very sleek. It does look very sleek. It's low to the ground. It's low ground clearance. It's
got decent speed as well. Actually, it's quite fast actually, but
it just doesn't interest me.
No, I mean the most interesting thing about it is the little stuffed alligator they have on top of it. They got sawed by dead metal, which was very fun.
But it's a good. Again, in another heat, Alligator probably could have won it.
It could have been at least a heat finalist, maybe.
But... it's a decent robot, but in this heat it was against two good machines, and I think it was it was always going to be a case of they're going to go out in this round because there was no other way through.
Yeah, it's sort of to me.
Maybe if they'd have fought Hypno-Disc, they might have been able to get underneath them. Who knows? But I think ultimately, I think they would have ended up being bits anyway. So.
Yeah, I probably agree. I mean, it's like it's sort of on par for me, something like Anarachophobia. I don't hate.
Yeah.
It's like okay for a second round person, but it's not the best, like most interesting robot ever. And also, it is the first of the. I think it's the only one actually, definitely of the Barnyard series because
It's of course the Barnyard series.
yeah, we've had a few. We had too many crocodiles with Dundee and Crocodilatron. Let's have
Should
an
we have
alligator. Let's have an alligator. Which I'm honestly they're basically the same thing to me. I'm sure someone will yell at me, but I don't care.
So alligators are from America. Crocodiles are from Australia, I think, and Africa. But the crocodiles are massive. Have you seen those things?
No, but
they're actually like dinosaurs. They're huge, mate. They're huge.
I wouldn't know. But animals aren't my thing. But alligator is the alligator for the Barnyard series. So
let me put it like this: I'd rather fight an alligator than a crocodile. Crocodiles are scary, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
Not in terms of robot wars. I'd much rather fight Crocodilatron.
I don't know. It was, in real life, I think crocodiles are more scary than alligators. So no wonder alligator went out in round 2.
Yeah.
If it was called Crocbot or something, I don't know.
You see, we've got to this point now. We're talking about animals as opposed to actual robots.
Yes, back to alligator. This is the thing. Alligators, there's nothing to it.
It's just okay. That's it. The best it is. It's just okay.
It's a decent robot. It's for a first attempt as well. Very good.
It's very fun. Shame they never came back again. Never tried again.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen what this team could have done because they've clearly got some good engineering. But
it seems like a robot that could have a flipper on it, like in the next series or something.
Or just like a lifting scoop or something. I mean, I know the scoop sort of lifted, but it didn't really.
No, it was just sort of a wedge. So
yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, that was Alligator. And now a robot that I'll just say it got gutted by Hypno-Disc.
I always think this is actually a more spectacular fight than the Robogeddon one.
Oh, definitely. I prefer this one. It's obviously it's stealth. Honestly, stealth is a pretty rubbish robot, in all things considered. It's
stealth was made out of road signs.
Also, it's really slow. How half the time
here's the thing though with stealth, right? Stealth. I literally watched this episode today as before we're recording this, and the young chap from the stealth team, he looked absolutely devastated.
Oh, he did.
He wheels out stealth, and he just must as one word answers to Flipper Forrester be absolutely miserable. I mean, I can understand why.
Yes.
Yeah, these are the days before the holding back sort of thing because they didn't need to back in these days. And he wheels out what's left of stealth. The dad's saying, I'm gutted, not for me, for my son. And it's just in bits. There's nothing left of it, really, is there? I mean, apparently they were going to come back with stealth too. I don't know.
I don't know. I've not heard anything about that.
But stealth, there wasn't much left of the original stealth to go back with, was there, sir?
The other thing is, if it was like made in Series 5, like a bit better, it could have been a decent robot. But as it is, like because it's Series 3 sort of standards, like
build quality isn't the best.
The flipper never moved once. It moved a little bit against.
No, it did, but it just stayed open, and then it just cut it out.
Yeah.
cut the pneumatic pipes.
Yeah. One of
the pneumatic ramps.
Yeah, one of the last robots to use an angle grinder, thankfully, along with Aardvark, because angle grinders never worked in Series 1.
Sweeney Todd in Series 8 used an angle grinder. He used 2 angle grinders.
Oh, they did, yeah. I mean, they made a debut, a bit like Coyote debuted the chainsaw, but unlike Coyote, who used it as a sort of an aesthetic thing, Sweeney Todd thought it'd be a weapon.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd were hilarious though. They
were great, but it's like stealth. Like again, I'd see the idea they're going for with the stealth bomber, but it's very kind of, it's actually quite dull. It's just there's no details on it. It's just sort of this wedge. Like it's got a few like minor like shadings on it and stuff and like lines, but it's not stellar.
It looks cool.
It looks very stealthy, at least, but
it looks like a stealth bomber, which is really cool. But
it's just, I mean, it was
it's a very Series 3 robot.
It was very lucky in its first round battle. Honestly, it would never got past the first round in most battles, but because it's so slow, it barely dries properly. It seems to just turn as soon as it starts for some reason, because the disc is going to do something, brilliantly against stuff. And again, should we just talk about the robot they beat?
No. I think we should save that particular one for last. I think we should wait. There's quite a few. There's a few interesting robots in this heat. I really like this heat because there's a few robots that either come back or
All right, then we'll start with actually we'll start with probably the most experienced robot in this particular heat was Corporal Punishment.
Yeah, I love Corporal. I love Adam Clark's machines in general. You know, they're all very unique and different. Obviously Vector. In fact, he still has Vector of Armageddon.
He does, yes.
He still it exists still, but Vector of Armageddon, that was a thing. Corporal Punishment 1, I always really liked, and I thought it was unlucky. But
I don't like Corporal Punishment 2 though.
Corporal Punishment Mark 2 with its scoop, it was unlucky because the scoop was already bent out of shape. I think that he must have done a qualifier or something.
Yeah, I mean it didn't touch the ground.
No, there was a problem clearly with the scoop, and I think if had the scoop on the ground again, could have been a potential heat candidate, but never was. And then Alligator just kind of dominated the fight.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I want to know which judge voted for their favour. I really do. Like, 'cause it was a split decision. Like, seriously, who thought they didn't?
Was that you?
Like, seriously, who thought Corporal Punishment did more than Alligator in that battle? I love that, but I mean,
Sharky, was that you?
I mean, I would talk about how well they did or how they could have done better, but honestly, they didn't really get a chance to do anything in their heat whatsoever.
Nope.
It just got stuck the entire time, and this is why RefBot existed, because RefBot would have come in and tried to separate them or something, or maybe a house robot would have done it. But then it was just like, if I was watching that battle, I would have been sat there like going, can we just stop the battle and reset or something? Because this is bollocks. Like I would have gone to the judges and go, can we just redo that battle? Because nothing happened in that. I had no chance to do anything, but of course they just kept it going because they were like, I don't know, do we do anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
It reminded of Voltark versus Biohazard, where it just stayed on top of them.
When they just get stuck on top for the whole fight. It's a shame, really, but it's,
just how, I mean, in fairness, with a scoop not touching the floor, what did you expect? Against a robot with a lower ground clearance, it was kind of expected, unfortunately. I mean, again, I don't know if it was like something to do with transporting it, like it got bent slightly, or they had to do a qualifier or something, but they didn't have enough time to get it down to the ground, clearly. But I mean, the original Corporal Punishment's biggest problem, it was too low.
Apologies in the background if you can hear my cat snoring, by the way.
I can't hear anything, actually. I can't hear anything.
Oh, okay, good. He's absolutely snoring away.
I mean, it's kind of ironic that the original Corporal Punishment had problems with its scoop being too low. Now its scoop's too high.
Yeah, I think it's Corporal Punishment is a great robot. I love Corporal Punishment, but Adam Clark, the best is yet to come from Adam Clark. I love his two robots after Corporal Punishment so much.
Although it makes you realise, looking at the second Corporal Punishment, that the first Corporal Punishment stood out because of the scoop. The second one looks very bland with the new scoop on, admittedly. It looks also like a La Machine ripoff.
Yeah, the first one looks cooler with the mesh scoop. It looks great, doesn't it?
It looks more unique, while this one's just sort of like wedge, and that's it. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, then he failed to qualify for Series 4, but he comes back in Series 5 and 6. Believe me.
I love Adam Clark's two machines in 5 and 6.
Five's definitely his most unique one. Let's say that, but
we'll get to those eventually.
Of course we will. Who do we go for next? I don't know. Let's go for the massive pyramid.
Tuts Revenge.
Now, this is the Megahertz team, and thankfully they went back to Megahertz in Series 6 and 7 because this robot is not very good. It's nice at least, but
it looks good.
It's got a very weird flipper on it. It's sort of like this kind of arm that just falls down and hopes it can lift things back up, but it just had no power to it. And you've got stuck in the wall. So, also, this is a weird thing. You might not believe me, but this is actually true. Tuts Revenge is the heaviest robot in this heat.
What?
It's 80.1 kilograms. In comparison, the second heaviest, I believe, was it is Berserk 2 at 79.5. Its opponent was lighter than it.
It's so much smaller. Where did they put it all?
Joe, it's sort of like the Shogun effect. Shogun is like one of the heaviest robots of Series 1, yet it's so tiny. And he's just got lots of stuff inside. Because think about it, they've got at least 2 or 3 pneumatic rams inside it.
Yeah, true. I mean, I get it. I like the aesthetic of Tuts Revenge. That team have a very good run with aesthetics, don't they?
Oh, they do. I do think it's a downgrade from Megahertz. Because the thing is, I like the pyramid look of it. But
I wouldn't say it's a downgrade from original Megahertz. I think the concept of Megahertz had more potential.
No, I'm talking about design. I mean, to downgrade, because
I like the pyramid. I like a bit of Egyptian
no.
stuff going on.
No, I like the pyramid, but I feel like they could have gone more out with the design on it. Because it's mostly got nothing on it. Like most of it's just like there's like a tiny sticker with like some Egyptian symbols, there's some eyes.
Yeah,
but...
they could have gone for some hieroglyphics, couldn't they?
Or something like Tut Tut, the American robot. Yeah, go a bit more out with it. But as it is, it's just okay. But yeah, it's just the Megahertz just looks more kind of. It's got more stuff going on in it than the Tuts Revenge.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
I still like Tuts Revenge, but
yeah, it's. Yeah, it was a nice looking machine, but it was never going to be practically functional, was it?
Plus a mile of ground clearance underneath it. It was kind of.
Oh yeah. just like Megahertz.
Actually, Megahertz was worse, way worse.
Megahertz, you could fit my whole arm underneath it or something like that.
Probably, but yeah, that was Mega. That wasn't Megahertz. That was Tuts Revenge.
Tuts Revenge.
Yeah. Robogeddon. R.I.P.
Oh, poor Robogeddon. I mean.
Two Robogeddons a credit though. They took it really well.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun with that, and I think they kind of expected to get absolutely smashed to bits, but they looked like they had a lot of fun
and a lot. I think a lot of people fail to mention is that Robogeddon was still working.
Yeah, the wheels were still moving. Well, until the last hit.
No, the wheels were still spinning. They just had no traction because the wheels just sort of fell apart slightly. But the robot was still internally working. It just couldn't go anywhere.
Very impressive.
I mean, compared to Stealth, where all its batteries went flying out and stuff, this robot got gutted and it still worked. It still looked like Robogeddon in a weird way.
Yeah, the shell. I mean, the shell just came off all in one piece, didn't it? Really, rather than anything else.
I mean, the attack on the wheels was probably the most painful part. Like seeing them just watch them slowly rip apart, and then the tire
and the CO2 canister go.
I mean, the fact that wheels are made out of wood is not really a good sign, but
it was a lot of fun to watch. This was, I think.
It's a shame they never qualified for Series 4 actually, because.
It would have been nice to see them again, yeah, absolutely. But I think, in a way, I'm glad they didn't, because I think this was a kind of a cool message that Robogeddon's only fight was against Hypno-Disc, and they got absolutely trashed. It was great.
It's weird.
They could never replicate that kind of fight again.
It's weird actually how Chaos 2's debut fight was also against like a crocodilian type robot,
yeah,
with a very similar look to it, like a kind of jaw, and they got annihilated, and so did they. But I mean, it's one of those all-time memorable fights of Robot Wars.
Yes, like when you think of Robot Wars, this is one of the fights you go to straight away.
I mean,
for me at least.
I love the rebooted series, but even in Series 8, when I was watching some in comparison, Nuts versus Carbide.
Yeah, that's the only comparable moment, isn't it? Really?
I mean, granted, it's a decent annihilation by Carbide, but it doesn't have that same. That same impact, obviously, because we knew Carbide was destructive because just look at it. And also, it took out the General and Bonk. It took out some chunks out of Bonk, and also just took out the wheel off General. So you think it's already destructive. So you come to expect that in a newer series with more technology. But back in year 2000,
99.
Was it?
Yeah, 99. I think it was.
No, so 28th of January 2000.
Oh, okay. Ignore me.
Yep. I got corrected by Anson last time on the previous heat. So it was 2000s, but yeah, this is. It's just unfortunate. This is one of the robots that had to be the sort of fodder robot for the new big, one of the best robots of all time. So,
yeah.
Again, I kind of feel sorry for it. It's like Crocodilatron or something. It's a good robot. It's not a bad robot, but when you just kind of get put against a really great robot, it ends up looking crap in comparison. Which is
you got no chance, really, have you?
No, it's never going to be remembered for anything else, but just being the first victim. But
it's a cool momentum to have, and I'm sure they probably still remember that quite well to this day, hopefully.
It is. And I will save the best for last, apparently.
So, obviously, Team Death. We love Team Death.
I love Team Death.
Both the Robocast and episode reviews. Obviously, they brought us such greats as Pièce de Resistance, and this is their latest entry.
Death Warmed Up.
Oh, Death Warmed. Again, it looks cool. It looks really cool, but it's just useless.
Oh, it's useless. I mean, actually, I mentioned this briefly in my last heat, but this is my favourite designed robot of Series 3. For the pure insanity of it. It is completely pointless. It is dumb. Nothing on it works whatsoever. But my god, is it the funniest. I mean, just picking it apart, it's got a chain. It's got an earthquake saw. Whatever the hell that's supposed to be.
It's a saw that causes earthquakes. Do you not know?
One thing that Anderson pointed out, I never noticed until I started watching it again, was it's actually lopsided.
It doesn't surprise me. In fact, again, we've discussed before. Team Death's robots are
interesting.
In terms of build quality, they're probably not the best, but they are such fun.
I mean,
they're such fun machines, and it's great. And
I would argue that Metalis is probably their least interesting one, because there's nothing kind of like gothic or weird about it. It's just sort of like a little crusher. And that's basically it. Like, it just looks like it's made out of scrap, but that's it.
Not even an original Chimera.
Oh yeah, Chimera is the same thing. It's just like a thwackbot, isn't it? So it's not that. It hasn't got anything amazing. Obviously, Immortalis is the next one in Series 5, and my God,
that's something.
Immortalis is certainly
a thing.
Yeah, I mean, they appeared in Techno games and did just as much as they did in Robot Wars. F all. But I mean,
again, don't get me wrong. This Death Warmed Up is.
Nothing.
What a name as well, by the way. Can we just? It's a great name.
Nothing will replace PS Resistance, of course, but they are the original. But my God, for a second attempt at making a weird robot, they succeeded for me.
Oh yeah, Death Warmed Up is something special.
I mean, the bit that I don't get about this robot is it's the slightest robot in the heat. It's just empty space everywhere in this robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, what is with all the wheels on the side? Like, it's kind of weird casters that are just stuck lopsidedly on the side of the robot.
For artistic effect?
Are they anticipating people to flip them?
I mean, it was very light, so maybe.
Maybe, but if they're against Stealth, that's not going to happen. Stealth can't lift anything.
Well, they didn't know. They didn't know. Stealth might have had an amazing flipper. No one knew.
Well, they went underneath them, didn't do it. They didn't manage to flip them, so...
No, that's true.
And so it's only 60 kilograms. Actually, it's only very slightly heavier than PS Resistance, oddly enough.
I think probably a lot of PS Resistance went into Death Warmed Up.
It's got a very boxy feel like PS Resistance. I mean, PS Resistance, you could tell was made out of a microwave. This thing, I don't know what it's made of. But,
yeah, that's true.
But I love Death Warmed Up so much. Again, it's like Tuntaron. It's so beautiful looking, but it's completely useless.
Yeah, it's great. It's just a good bit of fun, and that's what Robo's all about.
Agree. I sometimes have those silly robots in. We need our worms. We need our jellyfishes. But we need our nuts, you know what I mean? And we need Death Warmed Up.
Yeah, we need our robots that not necessarily going to be the most competitive things in the world, but they are going to be a lot of fun, and they're going to, the crowd are going to remember them.
That's true. I guess that's our cue to get to the battles then.
It is.
First one, oh God, Alligator versus Corporal Punishment.
It got stuck on top of it at the end.
That was it, and just kept driving around and tried to pin him at one point, but they couldn't do it, and then it's just Lot flipped him over, and then it went to a decision, and somehow, as I said before, it was a split decision.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I mean,
Noel, is that you?
Are you too embarrassed to admit it, Noel, that you voted for Corporal Punishment?
That's I mean, it's at the end of the day, Alligator deserved to win, and it won. Simple.
It doesn't make a difference in the actual decision overall. I just find it a weird. A weird thing about this battle. It's the only interesting thing about the battle. Let's face it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that was it. what a boring opening fight, eh?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I love Heat H, but my God, is that terrible opening to start the heat with. But a slightly more interesting battle is Berserk 2 versus Tuts Revenge. Tuts Revenge just kind of... I mean, Tuts Revenge got stuck in the wall at one point in this battle.
Yeah. I mean, Berserk was always going to win this one. It was just the faster and the more dominating robot, but yeah, it was interesting at least.
I mean, Tuts Revenge was faster than Berserk 2. It just had no control, like, whatsoever.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I mean. It was more of a, displayed, controlled display of speed rather than just tearing around like a lunatic.
It was more of a case of when was it going to flip it, as opposed to will it flip it?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there was only one way to go, and it also proved they tried to do a self-righting mechanism on Tuts Revenge, and it didn't work because the self-righter just pushed it onto a side it had no self-righter on. Genius. I mean, in fairness though, it would have been quite a task to make 4 self-righters on each side, because it's already quite compact as it is, looking at the internals of it. So it would be pretty much impossible to have a self-righter on every single side of this robot, but it's the fact they put it on 2 sides, not the other.
It showed a lot of ambition. I think that's a very important thing as well. They showed that they wanted to give something different to go.
It's true, but it's just it's like conical robots. It's hard to really get them to self-right once they're flipped over.
Yeah.
It's a very awkward shape, because it's the reason why people don't usually go for it, because, as Miss Nightshade proved recently, it's very hard to self-right from that position.
Yeah, they had some issues, didn't they?
They did. Another robot that was having issues was Robogeddon against Hypno-Disc.
I think we've discussed this fight already, pretty much. I mean, Robogeddon got absolutely smashed to shit, really, didn't it? Let's face it here.
I mean, actually, the funny thing is there were three pictures of it on the wiki. I don't know which one to go for, because they're all showing Robogeddon getting destroyed. I thought
all of them.
Just throw them all into one collage and just make them like this is the fight. Although, as Anson pointed out, this originally might not have happened because Hypno just got stuck in reverse drive at one point.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they got out of that magically for some reason. But imagine if that had been the case, they just died.
Imagine if this would have lost. That would have been so funny.
It'd been weird. Obviously, they probably would have come back next series anyway. But
It would have been worse than Kilohertz going out in round 1.
Oh, that never happens. That never happens.
No.
Not spoiling anything for a future heat or anything.
I mean, moving on.
You're spoiling the World Championship. Stop it.
I'm spoiling something that's 17 years old. Oops.
I mean, what is it to say about that fight? It's just...
It was pure destruction. I think that was the...
I mean, you had Jonathan Pierce almost having a heart attack. He was enjoying it that much. He could barely breathe by the end of this.
Yeah.
And finally, Death Warmed Up versus Stealth, which is just... Do you want to see two slow robots pushing each other for a little bit, and then eventually one setting on fire? This is the match for you.
Yeah, Death Warmed Up... Colin Scott. His robots are useless, but they are great for entertainment, and I think that's the whole point, really.
Actually, the bit that saddens me the most is Death Warmed Up was faster than Stealth.
Yeah.
Wow.
If he'd have ran away and just hid long enough, he might have won.
I mean, if you're watching the first 20 seconds of this fight, Death Warmed Up was actually winning. So take for that what you will. But eventually, Stealth managed to get underneath them, right at the back, and had a little trident, again, trying to do something with it. And that was another weird thing on the feature, the trident at the back. Was it?
It's just a mishmash of what not to put on a robot, and let's just put it on anyway, because why not?
It's sort of like if you were like 12 and you made your own website and just stuck loads of GIFs on it, and then just throw loads of stuff onto the web page and hope it works. That's what Death Warmed Up is. It's just a mishmash of anything that doesn't fit.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a nice way of describing it. Actually, it's a word I don't like to use, amateurish, but it is ultimately, he's an absolute novice at doing this. And
in fairness, though, if there's ever going to be a team that pride themselves on looking very amateurish, it's this team.
Yeah, Team Death are actually the team to do this, because they are just so much fun.
They're perfect for it, and then they set on fire.
Why not? I mean, why not?
Yeah, and the gloves started melting on it, and it was barely working by the end of it. Let's face it, it was just stuttering by that point, and. I mean,
maybe they just kept putting it in for a laugh, you know.
I know, but at least Stealth got one of the skulls for like a trophy.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I don't know if that was foreshadowing for their battle against Hypno-Disc or not.
Well, I think regardless of who they thought they were going to lose, but I think they would have rather fought Berserk 2.
Yeah, let's face it, Alligator, Berserk 2, and Hypno-Disc were all better than Stealth.
Yeah.
So, actually, one thing I failed to mention, it was on Berserk 2 versus Tuts Revenge match just before I stopped. Probably one of Jonathan Pierce's best puns of all time. I'm just going to point that out in that battle.
Go on.
It was, well, King Tuts Revenge still has got a pharaoh way to go.
Oh dear.
I love it. Sorry, I failed to point that out before, but yeah, that's my favourite pun of his.
Deary me, that's pretty poor, isn't it? Really.
No, the whole point of puns is they're meant to be terrible.
This is true.
If you don't get a moan, they haven't done the job. But before we get to the second round, obviously we have the special event, the side event, and is it a fight to call Walker battle?
One of my favourite teams ever, though, is in this fight.
That's true, but the battle itself is still pretty...
The Inglis family and their robot Mistruts, the sequel to Jimstruts.
Yep.
Your name, Jim. It's you.
Ah, it's true. Hey, see, and it actually...
Or your daughter, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it could be my sister as well.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could. Yeah.
Basically, any female relation would work. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But Miss Struts actually moved faster than Jim Struts.
It did, yeah.
It looks a lot nicer in Jim, so it's got like little boots on it and little
Yeah,
face.
it's got little booties on.
It actually worked, unlike his opponent Stomp, who just
Stomp looks cool though. I mean, it would have been fun if it worked.
Actually, the annoying thing was, I think it was something to do with the axles breaking or something on it.
It was that's a drive chain, I think it was, or something like that.
It was something unfortunately went wrong, because obviously I can tell what they're going for. It's like a robot that lifts itself whole body over with its feet.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
I mean,
but,
I mean, imagine how annoyed they must have been when it just did it just pulled its feet forward and then just didn't do anything. It's just like, well, just spin on the spot then.
The best thing about this robot, apparently it was a what was it? He said it was. It was an airplane trolley, like hot food trolley that they converted into a robot.
I'll believe that, honestly. Especially, it's just it looks
So
exactly
funny.
like one. I mean, at least it could spin on the spot. At least it did something.
Yeah,
But-
it had fun. This is bear in mind, this is not the worst walker battle in the series.
Oh God, no! There is another one later where it ends up being just a massacre for both teams.
Yep.
But at least Miss Struts stayed out of the. I mean, her affairs, just like Jim Struts, managed to stay out of any kind of trouble.
Jim
whatsoever.
Struts and Miss Struts are the only walkers at this point that have won fights. There's a theme here. The English family know how to build a robot.
Obviously, we are such a long way away from the awesomeness that is Claude Hopper. But until then,
I can't wait for Claude Hopper.
Claude Hopper is Bay. It really is. I mean, I love Anarchy because it is actually effective. But Claude Hopper being the first main
And
series.
Drillzilla. No, Drillzilla as well.
Well, that's a shuffle bot though, not a walker bot.
At the time, they were still classed as the same thing, weren't they? So
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, obviously, Claude Hopper was the first walker to win a battle in the main series. After Twister did nothing. But hey, I'll give him.
Well, Anarchy was also a shuffler.
Anarchy was a walker, not a shuffler.
It's officially classed as a shuffler, I believe.
Is it? How?
Yeah.
It's got legs though, like a walker.
There's a different there's a certain degree of movement, I think it is, and I can't remember the exact ruling on it, but I think apparently Anarchy's a shuffler.
I don't know. All right, I didn't know that.
But anyway, moving on.
Makes no difference really. Either way, they're sort of walker type robots, and
Yeah, in the old series, it kind of they fell under the same blanket, didn't they? So
yeah, it did. But Miss Struts won that because Stomp just didn't work, unfortunately, and they also got kind of destroyed by his house robots. So that was
yeah, that was fun.
not as bad as the other one. That's pretty unfortunate with the other one, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
I think that's in my heat as well, isn't it? That's in heat M.
I think so, yeah. So, yay! Just walkers get destroyed this series.
I get all the walkers. Woo!
Yay! Okay, so we'll start with the second round on Berserk 2 versus Alligator. Pretty straightforward, honestly. This battle. Bit of pushing and shoving until eventually Berserk 2 got the lucky flip. They did try to flip him a few times, but they eventually managed to flip him over properly. And the amount of times Berserk 2 almost flipped itself over by trying to flip another robot over was pretty perilous.
Pretty
It was perilous, but Alligator,
you can see where all the weight was in Berserk 2, couldn't you?
all in the back.
All at the back.
Imagine that forklift is massive, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it lifts so high up from the robot. It's like it's really well engineered, Berserk 2, and
Yes,
it
very much so.
shows you why, because it just effortlessly lifted Alligator right over, and then unfortunately, R.I.P. Beanie Baby Crocodile.
That's probably worth quite a lot of money now. They've shot themselves in the foot.
Actually, it could be worth more if it's been on Robot Wars and it's got a battle scar. I mean, I pay more for it than the regular one. But
maybe. We'll see.
I'll take it if you have that team. If you still have it, I'll gladly take it off you. The battle scarred crocodile. I mean, not as much. I mean, I pay way more for the Atlas figurine with his head missing, but you know.
There's not really much to talk about in this fight because it's once again it's Berserk 2 just kind of controlling the fight.
Yeah, it just got that one flip that ends it all pretty quickly, really.
Yeah.
Alligator was a robot that really should have been an inversal robot, but ends up not being.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good, but again, Alligator's just very, it looks good, and I think that's another cool robot in this heat, which is why I like this heat quite a lot. There's quite a lot of different things going on in Heat H.
That's true. And another thing that happened in Heat H was Hypno-Disc versus Stealth.
Stealth getting bombed.
It did. I mean, honestly, while Robogeddon was still functioning and sort of looked like the robot at the end, Stealth just got.
There's nothing left of Stealth.
No, it went back. It went back in the bin bag. Probably literally.
They went home in a bin bag, quite literally.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I've never seen a robot up until this point get this destroyed. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
The amount of the amount of
yeah.
internals, like this was the start of Hypno-Disc ripping batteries out of robots, because obviously the Predator and Splinter all know the problems of
Yeah.
batteries getting ripped out, and this is the first victim, and it just got worse and worse. Like, you know, the best bit, one of my highlights to me was the bit where Hypno-Disc got caught on the spike, and he sort of
flicks the blade off.
yeah, accidental, really cool move, and then they took the weapon off, then they took the back plate off, then they destroyed all the electrics, and then
my favourite bit of this whole fight is where like they're driving towards it, they just knock the saw blade to the side, and they come in and hit another panel off the back. That's my favourite bit.
No, my favourite bit is the bit where they rip off the pneumatic.
The flipper.
Yeah, and it's just kind of limply hanging out of the.
And you can just see the dude just like shake his head, just like, "Oh, please don't do it." And
yeah.
And he does. It's just, oh.
I love that. Like, you know, it destroys every single threat that possibly would have been that Stealth even had, even when it wasn't even threatening by that point. It still decided to take that chance for some reason, and yeah, Stealth just got annihilated. Like, there wasn't
much left of Stealth, was there?
I mean, the most poetic shot of Stealth is when you go on its wiki page and you see its picture afterwards, the picture of it after the battle. Yeah. It's just it's sad. I mean, there's a few moments of Series 9 I've noticed, but like a picture of Sabretooth or Coyote after the battles, you just see that kind of shot of it just dead. And it's just like it's up there because it just doesn't look like Stealth anymore. You can see the wheel.
I mean, let's face it, it got absolutely trashed, didn't it? There's no second thought about it. It got absolutely battered. There's nothing.
I mean, I know it's premature, but out of this and Splinter, who do you think came off worse? Because let's face it, they're its two biggest kills in the series.
Well, here's my thinking, right? Considering Hypno-Disc Mark II, the one in Series 4, was stronger than the original one, I think this one's more impressive because the disc is not as strong. You know, the engine is all new. No one really expected this. Whereas Splinter, you know, Hypno-Disc has got a bit of a reputation by this point that they're going to be destroying your robot, and obviously Splinter was going to get splashed anyway. You thought about it really, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think Stealth's the more impressive one for me, at least.
Yeah, also got to take into account things like build quality and all that, but
yeah.
We don't know about that too much. But yeah, Stealth just kind of got destroyed. Yeah, that was certainly I wouldn't even call it a battle. I'd just call it a one-sided massacre. To be honest with you.
It shouldn't have been on before the watershed.
No, I mean, we don't like to see torture on TV, and this is kind of like one long torture match for Stealth.
This should have been shown after 9 o'clock.
Yeah. I suppose it wasn't on the news the next day. Has roboteering gone too far?
The inside story from Stealth.
Well, in fairness, if the news are going to come up with random shit headlines or Robot Wars, they might as well come up with this one. I mean, wasn't that one recently when it said Angela has to stop match, you know, because it's something like...
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like...
Nice clickbait news, guys.
Yeah, because obviously Angela has the authority to stop the matches, because she's controlled. She controls everything.
Yep.
And
she's the absolute legend.
I just find it so dumb. Journalism is shit sometimes.
Yep.
But anyway, we get to the heat final, and we mentioned it a few times, obviously, but it's Berserk 2 versus Hypno-Disc, and up until the spike, Hypno-Disc was losing.
Yep, but after that point, it was all Hypno-Disc.
Because, I mean, the very first hit, you won't believe how disappointed I was when I was like watching this in 2000 when I was younger. When I was around 6 at the time. And it's just like, you know, it just did that one hit, the sparks flew, and I was just like, where's destruction? I wanted him to destroy this thing, and it didn't. And then Hypno-Disc actually they do stop the disc multiple times. They almost flip him over one point. Get him into a house robot, and it's like, wow, they were genuinely losing. And then, lo and behold, the floor spike decides to have a go and toppled them right the fuck over.
Yeah, they did, and they just popped. It was like a like when they flicked it up and it just kind of slowly just tipped over. Obviously, because Berserk was quite big for a robot. It just poked up and it just slowly fell over.
It was very unlucky. I mean, actually, even at the end of the match, that's actually one thing I was quite impressed with, because Hypno-Disc is not known for its pushing power. But they actually managed to push Berserk 2 back.
Yeah, they did. It was very impressive stuff, and I think they, in the end, I think after everything, it was a deserved win for Hypno-Disc, but
it was a massive. Let's face it, it was a massive uphill battle for Berserk 2 to try and win that heat after that moment.
Yeah,
because they were from then on in, everything they did was sort of worthless in comparison to the fact they managed to take themselves out with a spike. So, I mean, Hypno-Disc did manage to last the end. Both of them lasted to the end pretty well, but yeah, Hypno-Disc in the end, Hypno-Disc basically dominated the second half of the match once they self-ried, and that moment obviously counted against them because it was bad control on Berserk 2's part. So, yeah, unfortunately, I mean, while I agree with the decision, obviously, it's a massive shame that Berserk 2 had to go out on this as unfortunate as they did, but that's where it was. That's where it was.
That is. I mean, Berserk 2. It was unlucky, but again, in any other heat, they probably could have won it. So.
And next series, they seem to carry on the tradition, Berserk 2, of losing to future greats. Future grand finalists as well, oddly enough, in Tornado.
Well, in next series, they were. I mean, the fact that they got punctured by Tornado is kind of embarrassing when you consider they withstood Hypno-Disc. Unless Tornado was stronger than Hypno-Disc, Tornado's pushing was stronger than Hypno-Disc's disc. But
it's also more embarrassing that they lost in the same. They managed to go through at the same time the Creature did.
Yeah.
The Creature went with them, not Invertebrat, the Creature. Take for that what you will, but yeah. That was Heat H.
I got a good heat. I'm so happy.
You got a good one finally. It took you long enough, but
and then Anderson's back next week, which is exciting for him, I guess.
Yeah, because I believe Heat I is the first heat he's ever seen. So.
Right. Yes. Okay.
That's the only reason he's doing I, because that's the reason why. But.
Yeah, and are we discussing the Heat J thing yet, or are we saying
I'm gonna save that for Heat I. I'll mention that Heat I. But we have. I will say, obviously, without spoiling anything, we do have a special guest for Heat J. So
a very special guest.
I was grateful to have him on. So I'm not gonna mention who. I'll mention it in Heat I. But yes, just a little bit of a thing for you.
So special that me and Anderson are there.
That's true. It's gonna be a 4 commentator special.
How about that? I'm excited to do that one. I really am.
It will be good. And
but anyway, we must just preview Heat I. Go.
Of course, Beast of Bodmin. Basically, it's do you want Roadblock as its fursona? This is Beast of Bodmin. It's literally just Roadblock, but with a lifter on the front instead.
It was a little bit different. It had some internal differences. But
it doesn't. It's not that much different in design.
It's different, but it's not massively different.
I'll give him credit for giving it more of a personality this time. I mean, the winking eyes. Come on, that's just gorgeous. In the most useless way possible. They're the best thing ever. We have Invertebrat, a very unique concept in the flipper, but it never really managed to work that well.
In both series, they were unlucky. I mean, for me, I don't know why they weren't seeded in Series 4, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
It was a good robot.
Series 4 was even worse for them because they got pinned themselves their own flipper. And again, the flipper is unique. I'll give them that. It's a very unique flipper, but it just doesn't have the power to really flip anything over.
Or like it didn't have like the purchase. It was very small. It was there wasn't much to it, and there was no like kind of. In Series 3, they had like quite a wide base plate, whereas in Series 4, they didn't.
Yeah, it's got very, very thin area to lift things, and also a lot of times the robots just slip off the flipper, so it could really just lift things, and that was it. I mean, it's a nice design, granted, but the disc of the back was sort of kind of pointless because it was facing the wrong way.
True.
So yeah, one of my favourite designs of Series 3 is Terrapin. I love the little head on Terrapin. It's so dumb. But this robot was clearly built for the gauntlet in mind because it had the little lifting shell that didn't really affect anything. But I mean, I'll give him credit. They took out Vercingetorix, so
they did do that, yes.
And actually lasted to a judge's decision, so they weren't terrible. They just didn't have much control or effective weaponry because the spike's so high up.
True.
You couldn't even hit
True.
Vercingetorix. That's quite a tall robot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the rivalry continues with Onslaught. Now actually has a lifter this time.
I love Onslaught. Onslaught's great, and yet it got drew against bloody Beast of Bobbin again.
I'd say the more unlucky in Series 4 when they had to pull out. That was unfortunate.
And then in Series 5 they had Tetanus.
Tetanus managed to take him out, and it's also they did well in the Annihilator against Razor, the Sudden Annihilator, getting to last 2 before unfortunately.
So today Onslaught, I believe, has connections to Kapow.
Yeah, I think I think some of the guys have made Kapow as well, who were in the pilot episode for Series 8.
Yes.
I don't think they tried for Series 9, but I hope they try I hope they do try again because it looks okay, Kapow, but
yeah.
Oh well. Another one is another thwack bot, Armageddon. It's very slow. It's very slow thwack bot. It's very It's I like the sort of idea with the wheels, but it looks really awkward that it just never really did anything, and it got caught in the pit somehow, even though the lifter could lift upwards. So yeah, it's just Armageddon.
Yeah, it's just Armageddon. That's the only way to it.
Yeah. The Witch, which is obviously you have the Wizard. Why not have the Witch? And this robot is so great. It managed to knock itself out with its own hat.
I love the design of the Witch. It's a fun robot.
Oh yeah, I've nothing against the Witch. I just think it's just as silly as the Wizard, to be honest with you. Except actually it's faster than the Wizard and a decent top speed, but it just had no control, no really effective weaponry, and again it took itself out with its own hat. So, but I love the team though.
Yes, they're wonderful. They're a wonderful
team was so
individuals.
Ozzy was such a shame he never came back again because they could
have called it the Mage.
The Mage, yeah. You could just
Yeah,
go
or the Apprentice, something like that. I don't know.
Wizard's Apprentice, yeah. Obviously, Vercingetorix come back again with a better robot, and unfortunately, they got taken out by a Terrapin.
I mean, how'd you lose to Terrapin?
It's quite embarrassing considering they actually have improved their robot.
I kind of like Terrapin's design, so.
I like Terrapin, but it's more interesting than Vercingetorix. But also, one thing I have to say that I find absolutely brilliant, because obviously it's clear the producers can't speak Latin.
Yeah.
They have Julius Futue Te Ipsum, literally means Julius, go fuck yourself. In Latin, and they put it on there, and since nobody speaks Latin, they could say a swear word on.
In fact, Latin's not really a thing, really, is it?
No, but it just makes me. I just love the fact they actually managed to put that. That's just. Yep. Oh, I give them 10 points for that. If I could put like a foreign language and put a swear word in, I would on my robot. If nobody, like a really obscure one, like Swahili or something like that. I don't know, something like nobody would ever think to put on their robot. So, because let's face it, I can't imagine many people who speak Swahili watching Robot Wars as much compared to like France or something. So.
True.
And finally, Crusher.
It looks great.
It looks nice, but it's painfully slow.
And nice tracks.
Yeah, the tracks were not even so exposed. I mean, Beast of Bobbin just didn't do anything really to knock them off. They just kind of nudged them. Also, fun fact, this is the Warthog team from Series 1 and 2, the Middleweight Rumble.
Yep.
And here's a really random fact I bet you didn't know. I don't know if you did know or not, but one of the team members, I believe his name is Adam Pengilly. Sounds like a World of Warcraft character. He was actually part of Talk of the Devil in Series 1.
All right.
What weird? I'm just it's mentioned on the Crushers thingy. I think I met on Talk of the Devil, one of their wiki pages, and I was like, what a weird thing. Just like it's such a random robot to be connected with them. But yeah, Warthog and Talk of the Devil are connected in Crusher.
Who knew?
Whatever. Anyway, so that'll be Heat I. This was Heat H. Out of 10.
Heat H for Hypno-Disc. I'd give it 7 or 8.
7 or 8. That's pretty decent. I'll probably give it a 7, mainly because some of the battles do let it down a bit. Like especially some of the first round battles aren't that interesting, but the Heat Final and Stealth battle and the Robogeddon battle make up for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hypno-Disc was the bright spark in this heat. Absolutely.
Plus, the whole heat is a +1 for me just because of Death Warmed Up.
Exactly. How can you not like Death Warmed Up?
I love it. Anyway, I am Jimjamatic signing off.
And this has been Sam Elliott 64. Thank you very much, as ever, Jim, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Of course, and see you for I then.
See you later.